And we are back again. Your Philly neighborhood football. We are Franklin Football. I'm your humble host, Brandon, and I got my man, 100 Grand. Set it off, Chris, with me. But wait, there's more. Today we have with us, great friend of the show, StarGazerSports. I'm going to call it Star for short. Star, please introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are, what you do, etc., etc.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Star. I'm Stargazer Sports, but I just go by Star because who's gonna be saying Stargazer Sports every time? But I'm really appreciative of Brandon and Set It Off Chris for inviting me to come talk ball on their platform of Frankly Football. So excited to be here to talk Cowboys football.
Thank you so much for coming, by the way. Appreciate that greatly.
Thanks for kicking with SGS. I'm gonna just call you SGS. That's just catchy. I like that. I'm gonna run with that today and rock with you on that, man. Thanks for coming kicking with us.
I got a question for both of y'all. The prevalent topic among the media outlets that discuss the Cowboys, local media, national, etc., is Brian Schottenheimer's injection of new culture to the team. Now, at first glance, this might be, a great thing. Players are bought in and etc. But in a lot of ways, doesn't this kind of like bring you like flashbacks of like the right kind of guy era when we experienced with Coach Garrett? How do you feel about Shotty's new culture? Star, I want you to lead first, please.
Yeah, I have heard, people are saying this sounds like, Jason. I've heard the Clarence Hill and other people talk about how Jason Garrett too said that he was going to build the culture and things like that. And, why is this any different? And, I feel like it's different because when you look at the background of Shotty wasn't, Jason Garrett was a Jones chosen or a golden child or a beloved son, which he didn't have any skins on the wall before he became our offensive coordinator. Then he moved up to head coach.
Right.
He went from quarterback to QB's coach, maybe to offensive coordinator to coach. Right. Like you didn't have any really development or anything like that outside the league. You didn't do anything to earn this position. It was just given to you. Why? Because Jones is really valued. I believe your father. I was on staff, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, John Garrett was a scout there. He had a lot of pool there. Yeah,
exactly. Pool. They probably knew Jason since he was a kid, and they, how Darius, he had these thoughts in his mind, like, one day he's gonna be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That went along. When you look at Shotty is a person that got it out the mud. I mean, even though his father is this legendary coach. Shotty has coached under multiple different coaches, different regimes, has been in the league for 15 years and literally worked his way up. Started as a quality control coach like most coaches do and just literally worked his way up to get to an offensive coordinator and then eventually get to now a head coach 15 years later. So I would say that's one way where you can say it's different because Jason Garrett was a golden child, which he didn't really knew what it took to really be a head coach or offensive coordinator compared to Shotty. I feel like you've been in the league long enough, you know what it takes. And then on top of that, when you go to, looking at his background, I know Jason Garrett's dad was obviously a scout, but then you go to Brian Schottenheimer sitting at a table with a legendary coach. I think that's something that's different than what Jason Garrett experienced with his father. No, not to whatever his father accomplished. I don't know his background, so I can't speak too much on it. But so I do think that these coaches are different. Of course, we don't know until we actually get to football and we see how the team actually performs. But I will say that I think that Shotty is doing all the right things to be able to get the culture that he wants. It ultimately just comes down to Jerry and Stephen Jones and if they actually allow him to implement the culture that he actually wants.
Yeah, And I kind of like where you went with that at the end. I really like the way you went at the end. But going back to the right kind of guy, I think what everybody wants is a guy who loves football, eats, drinks, sleeps it, wants to be in the facility, wants to do certain things. When it comes time for them to come to go to work, they come and go to work. And they keep themselves out of the limelight or all the other kind of stuff that's negative that is easy to get into Dallas. So going with Jason as well as with Shotty, Jason may not have had the long track list or the history as we would expect most coaches to go through. He didn't do that. You're right. He got picked by the Joneses. They set him up, and the Joneses love a story. If we don't know anything else, they love a storyline for a player situation. Jason was the storyline. I think what Shotty's trying to do by bringing in a culture of, listen, I'm here, I'm going to listen, I need you to come to me first. I think what Shotty's trying to do is get them to come to him first. Let you come and voice your disagreement with me first before you turn around and you run it up to the Joneses. Because what that does is cuts his legs out from it. That's the one thing that Jimmy never liked it. You can tell every coach has been it. Bill didn't like it. Nobody liked the fact of the matter that players had that direct access to go talk to the owner because he's also the president. I think Shotty's trying to get to the culture. Listen, we're going to come, we're going to play hard, but you're going to come talk to me first if you got an issue about what's going on before you went upstairs. And it was too many of those guys that were now to the point they had already been talking to Jerry all the time. They didn't get the kind of love and respect. You know, D-Law had that kind of mentality. Hey, I'm going to go straight to him because I've had to deal with him with money. So I'm going to deal with that. And I think that's the shift in the culture they're trying to do. Guys who love it, guys who are going to, think about, hey, what I'm going to do before I get out in these streets and do certain things, but they're going to come to Shotty first and try to talk to him and build it from that point. That's what I'm saying.
So that's a good point about what you brought up with the difference between Garrett and Schottenheimer, right? During the Garrett regime and likely during the McCarthy regime, there could have been a level of distrust. Who knows what it could be between the players and the coach that calls him like to sidestep him in authority and go straight to the top at the ladder, with like voicing the grievances and things like that. Why do you think that is?
Well,
why do I think? Go ahead, Sar. Go, Sar.
Yeah. Why do I think that the players basically sidestepped them? Yeah. I think because they didn't do the work necessary to build relationships. Mm-hmm. I think that, and that's kind of like what the opposite of what Shotty is doing. Shotty is trying to really build real, genuine relationships. Mm-hmm. So that, like you said, Chris, so that the players don't go and run and tell daddy, which is Jerry.
Right.
Because I think it was Dion. It was Prime that started this whole thing because when Barry Switzer came in, Dion didn't like the practice schedule, something like that. He didn't like the practice schedule, something like that. And he didn't have that they didn't have that connection and reverence for Barry Switzer as they had for Jimmy Johnson. So they're like, listen, we already won Super Bowls. This man's trying to come in here and tell us what to do. Jerry, we need you to fix it. And Jerry fixed it. And I think, but that's because Barry Switzer didn't have the relationship with those guys. Now, granted, he didn't have time to build it because it was like, all right, Jimmy's fired. You're here. Yeah. So it's not like he had time to really galvanize and get the guys on his side because these are all born and bred Jimmy guys. Well, Dion wasn't, but still, he didn't have that connection with Barry.
I think what ended up happening, even going that far back, and we're only going by, we couldn't have touched it a bit as close with because we were just, most of us just young guys and young gals, and so. But I think what ended up happening.
6.
Yeah, okay. I said young. But what I think ended up happening though is you lost the disciplinary phase of it. Jimmy was the disciplinarian. Mm-hmm. He was the one that's saying, hey, you do this, I'm gonna do that. There was a fear and a reverence for Jimmy that was not, you didn't have to worry about going to Jerry. You need to make sure you had Jimmy on your side. We go back to the famous story when Leon Lett end up having the block punt against block field goal against Miami, and he was scared he was gonna get cut, and he was sitting there, grown man in the dark, crying, talking about he about to get cut. but he was worried about what Jimmy was going to say. So, but going back to that, I think with shot, like we've been saying, you got to have these levels. It's always like you got to have levels of authority where, to the point, if it gets past the player level where, hey, the captains in here can't handle it, it goes straight to the coach. When you go straight up to the top, to the team, there's no other place to go from there. You got to get up out the system. Either somebody gonna have to conform. Now somebody gonna be looking like they wearing pants. Nothing wrong with this star, but they wearing some extra tight panties up in the locker room or something like that. If that end up happening, if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing. So I think that's the direction that Shotty is definitely trying to get under control now. Hey, I need you to come talk to me. Hey, you got an issue, you got a problem. Hey, come talk to me. And we play it as being a player's coach, but I think it's just to the point of understanding the people that are working with you to help you accomplish your goal. That's what we got to have. I think that's what it is. I don't have a problem with the right kind of guys, because if you go back and look at some of Jason Garrett's drafts and the players he got players. There was never a question about him getting players, and getting guys who could play. It was all about, some of the different game management, X's and O's and stuff down the stretch, and luck, luck and stuff like that kind of tarnished Jason Garrett. We just got tired of being 8-8. But sometimes being 8-8 was because we didn't have the personnel on the field. We had to have people make magic.
For sure.
Right. Yep.
Now one thing I can say is this. I think that Brian Schottenheimer's done everything right so far. He done got an A on every test so far. I think that the thing that I and most people probably as well need to see is when the rubber meets the road. How is he being the CEO at practice? How is he on the sideline and things like that? Having a bigger chair, because we saw him as the OC, but how is he having that bigger chair? I think that's all we got to see. Because while I was skeptical at first, he kind of got a little bit of trust from me about his first couple months. With the corner office.
Yep.
No doubt. Yo, shout out to my main man DMV. I got a question that me and you talked about on the other night. I'm gonna put out here on these streets, man, and I'm
lead right into that, Chris.
Okay,
good segue. Lead right into that, Chris.
Well, listen, I love our channel, man, but some of these guys, I'm like, in real life, we real friends. We talk about real stuff. Yeah. So DMV hit me up the other night, and me and him were going back and forth about, along with this, kind of along the lines of this Shotty changing the culture, but people feeling comfortable, people feeling that they've arrived.
Like players.
Yeah. So DMV had a real problem with Wanye Thomas getting number 2, which was Jordan Lewis's number, and he like, make these guys kind of earn it. So, and when guys get, when you played sports, no matter what it was, if it was softball, football, basketball, you wanted lower digit numbers. You know what I'm saying? And so, Wanye out the back, boom, he gets number 2. They ain't even let the daggum steam. They ain't even let it get cool over there. They just gave it straight to him. Yeah. So now you're looking at guys feeling the pressure of I've got to perform, or they feel like I'm good, because Wanye's statement was, it's fun again. I shot back with John, was like, sometimes when you're in a situation where you're not allowed to be able to play, get an opportunity to, showcase your talents, it becomes like, man, what am I going to get my chance? But now it's to the point he feel like I'm going to get an opportunity. But I think, John, and with DMV, my bad, I don't want to use government out here in these streets, but DMV turned around and was like, hey, put some pressure on these guys so they can feel better. So here's a couple of guys who I think should have pressure on them. I'm not gonna go with the low hanging fruit, because I know the low hanging fruit in Cowboy Nation is one guy. We're not gonna bring his name up, but Wanye Thomas, should he feel comfortable? What do y'all think?
Start with.
Should he feel comfortable?
Right. Should he feel comfortable, or should he have that pressure of, hey, I gotta come in, I gotta show and prove that I can be this guy?
Well, I mean, realistically, he hasn't really played much to feel comfortable. I'm like, we've seen him do spot work, and he's done a good job. Sometimes he didn't do a great job, but I would say no, he shouldn't feel comfortable, because you don't have any financial stability here. Like, we re-signed you, but both contracts we've given you is like $3 million. So it's like, we could easily cut you. We could easily trade you. You haven't shown anything on the field to feel comfortable. And granted, maybe not his fault because the coaching regimes maybe just had their guys of. With the safety room, I feel like it's weird because I do feel like players like Wanye and Marquise Bell and Obi, who's like a hybrid type of player, like they should be playing over guys like Dono and Malik Hooker. But for some reason, the previous regimes have preferred them, or they were just on the field because we playing politic ball and they're the ones who got the contracts. So whoever gets the contracts plays. But I think talent-wise, Wanye is better than Malik Hooker and Dono, but I think when you look at everything else, I feel like he cannot feel like, oh, I'm comfortable. I got this locked in the bag.
Okay. What you think, B?
I agree as well. Wanya Thomas isn't making the big money. Generally in Dallas, if you're gonna find out who gets the big snaps, follow the money. Wanya Thomas got 1 year left here, and he's making like $38 and getting the Wendy's 4 for 4. So yeah, he shouldn't feel comfortable because the guys ahead of him have been playing for a little while. Malik Hooker's been here for a while. Donovan Wilson's been here for a while. He hasn't won anything yet, and he also ain't got the big money to where the Joneses feel like a financial obligation to him.
But here's my retort to that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my TI word, but you ain't giving me the layup for it yet. But I think you turn around, I think in that safety room, I think he's probably the best safety that we can see with upside. We also understand what Dono is, but we also know Malik Hooker is probably towards the latter part of, his upper echelon of his play. So I can say, Wanye can say, hey, listen, it's fun again for me. Yeah. I'm probably the best safety in this room, or if not the best, I'm close to it. So I can say having the opportunity to showcase his talent as a safety is good. But like you said with the last regime, they were to the point of, hey, man, they was fighting for to keep their job, man. They wasn't worried about getting guys snaps, getting developed. They just knew they was trying to make sure they got another paycheck at the end of that 17-week. And as we all found out, some did, some didn't. But I think that's my only thing with him. I got another guy who I think should be does he feel comfortable? And I'm gonna go inside that room for you. Golly, and I always mess up. I can never remember this guy's name, man. Linebacker, LSU that you don't like, Brandon.
Damone Clark.
Huh?
Damone Clark.
Damone Clark. So
stop. We right here with it. We right here with it.
How do y'all should Damone feel kind of like comfortable, uneasy, kind of like I might be, I might get special team snaps. What do you think Damone should be feeling? Give it to me, Star.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think that Damone should be comfortable at all. I feel like they added a lot of bodies to that room as well. All season they've added 3 linebackers, so I definitely don't think that he should be comfortable. And I mean, considering his play, he didn't get a lot of his snaps decreased significantly from 2023 to 2024. And then now Eberflus has added in his own guys that he prefers to play in his. So no, I definitely don't think he should be comfortable.
Okay.
Damone Clark should be feeling impending doom for his football life as a Dallas.
Come on, man! Almost let me spit my water out. Come on, man. Impending doom.
Impending doom.
Okay.
His Cowboy life is currently on life support.
Okay. All right.
Because the things that he doesn't do well, which is act instinctually. That's a TI word for today. Act instinctually, process plays very well. There are guys on this roster that do that better than him. So if you want to talk about a position redundancy, he could very well be one of them.
Okay.
I kind of had like a bit of disdain for Damone Clark, from the beginning, right? Chris, I hold grudges. Matter of fact, you might not notice about me. I hold grudges. I hold grudges against a lot of players, and it's very hard for these to get back in my good graces.
No, Star. It's hard. It's hard to get back in Brandon's good graces on anything. Once you cross Brandon's like, I mean, you just done. You got to go have like 2-3 good years, or you got to have just sustained great play for him to give you any love. But that's for another time, another place. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Damone Clark is in a room that is talented, but has some injuries, of course. Yeah, man. Clark might be like the fourth linebacker on the depth chart, if we being real.
Yeah, he's probably about 4 or 5 right now. He's about 4 or 5.
He better learn to play some special teams. He better learn to run in a straight line.
Oh, yes. It's a lot of guys on that deal. What you got? Come on, big.
Is there anyone else that you thought?
No, I mean, I thought about Damone. I just don't want to beat Mozzie into the ground because
man, that's the low hanging fruit.
That's low hanging. I have a love for Mozzie. You still got a little grudge. We working on that with you with Mozzie. And we were talking prior before coming on as SGS. We were trying to say, hey, what can we do, or who's on the street? Because our feeling is, and it's a lot of guys in the Cowboy community, we got to continue to add. And I've been feeling that way. But I'm looking at the amount of draft capital that we have, and I don't think we're going to give any more draft capital up. We still got a whole bunch of money. I don't even know why we holding on with this money. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. But I'm just looking at other pieces and other players about certain things that they're going to be able to do. And I was wanting to ask about those guys. Kalen Carson, I don't think he has to be. I know he worried like crazy. So I was just looking at those two guys. Those are the guys that came to mind to me.
Okay. So I kind of got a follow-up question. I know that you wanted to avoid Mozzie, right? But when we had a couple of minutes on, I played a quick game called it Hot Seat Cold. I got a list of guys, at least 4. And I want you to tell me if these guys' seat are hot or if it's cold. And since we kind of went down that road, do you think that Mozzie Smith's seat should be hot or cold?
I really feel like with Mozzie, it really depends. I feel like with him, I mean, he is the guy, so I feel like there's no one behind you that's going to be ready to take your spot unless the Cowboys go and trade for someone like a Vita Vea or someone who's like a proven vet in their prime. Because every other DT behind him is either a rookie or a second-year player with limited snaps. So, and it takes a while for DTs to cook. I will say that if he regresses, which I haven't seen regression from Mozzie. I've seen him get better. But I mean,
say that again, Star. You see Mozzie do what? What you seen him do?
I've seen Mozzie regress. I've seen Mozzie get better. So I believe that if he continues on the trajectory, then I feel like his seat will not be hot. But if he takes a step back and was looking kind of bad, you know what I'm saying? If he regresses, then I could see him being on the hot seat because I could see the Cowboys either trading for one or just making sure that they draft the DT high next year, or depending on how Jay. Well, I'm not gonna be looking at Jay because it takes about at least 3 years, but like a Justin Rogers. Because he'll be in year 3 next year. So if Justin Rogers gets significant snaps this year, he looks pretty good. I could see the Cowboys like, maybe we missed out, and Mozzie regresses, and I could see them saying, we missed out. We missed on you. We're gonna ship you out of here, and we're gonna make Justin the starter.
So you don't. So whereas me and B have been talking about a DJ Reader. And we were kind of looking at some other people. If you turn around, if you just stay with the Justin Rogers, Mozzie Smith, because B wants that D tackle room loaded. He want people in their fight,
shoulders rubbing,
worried about if they're gonna have a seat, playing musical chairs to get seats. So Justin Rogers, Mozzie, Jay Toya, Tommy, I can't pronounce his last name, but you know what I'm talking about. So we're looking with that 4-man rotation and with number of snaps, that's going to get us to another question. You feel like because they may not go back and go spend any money, high money on draft capital. You're going to hope that the coaching from the new regime with Eberflus and things of that nature is going to be able to elevate these guys or help these guys take the next tick. Is that what you think? That's what you think? That's yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking
Okay.
that Eberflus should be able to build. Hopefully, he's able to build on what Zimmer did, because I know what we were ranked and stuff like that. But when you turn on now, we had some issues. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of you. If you look at the player in a vacuum and not the
in the hole,
volume, right? Like you looking at film, you're looking at the direct play. You're like, these players got better. These players, the defense was bad, but Osa had a career year.
Right.
Defense was bad, but we saw Mozzie go from getting blown 4, 5, 10 feet off the ball to okay, now he's able to spit the double team. Now he's able to anchor. Like now he's able to reset the line of scrimmage. I mean, we did a shout out to Bob Cowboy. They did a film session showing how Mozzie versus Philly's O-line, as a rookie, he got his ass whooped.
Absolutely.
They were having their way with him. Any way they wanted to push him, that's what it was happening. And when you look at Mozzie, the last game of the year from last year, Mozzie wasn't getting bullied. Mozzie wasn't getting pushed off the line, nothing like that. So I feel like, when you look at these individual players in a vacuum, it's like, okay, he got better. I know what he could build on. And then we've added some new pieces where they kind of, from other places like Kyer Elam and Kenneth Murray, which Kyer Elam, he was like up and down, he had a decent year, I think, till the second half of the year. And then that playoff game where Patrick Mahomes was just picking on him, I think that's when he asked, what I'm saying?
Hey, find the scrub and went at him. And that's kind of like what me and B have been talking about, is that you kind of need these guys and maybe one more guy to kind of hold the ship down for the most part until that magical time of year for all of us is Thanksgiving, because we feel like Thanksgiving you get the second wave of guys coming back and being able to help us get to our point, So if Kyer can play up to a certain level, and then turn around, you get Kyer playing, you get Carson playing a certain kind of way, you get Bland can do what he is. I still feel like we should go get a Stephon Gilmore. I don't need Stephon Gilmore for 19. Because I play for 19. I don't think we're at that level yet to win the Super Bowl, but I'm playing for 19. I want to get to 19 games. But my thing is, I think Gilly can give me a good solid 9 and a half-ass 10th game. And by that time, Sharon Ravel and Diggs will be back, and they'll be able to take me across the finish line. That makes sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I feel like with the corner room, that's the one where it's like, I don't know. Like, we could say bring in another guy now for insurance, but it really just depends, because you got 3 guys that I feel like the Cowboys are going to give. Well, I know for sure they're going to give Elam a chance, because they just they traded for him. Yep. So I think Elam, everybody should start getting their heads around it. If Diggs is not ready, which I don't suspect Diggs is going to be ready.
Nope.
He'll be ready probably mid-season and after, but he's not going to be ready week 1. Kyer Elam will be in the lineup.
Gotcha.
I think that and I think that he's been doing the things to get better. And it's been what we've heard from the reports at OTAs and then from Brian Schottenheimer himself, is that Kyer Elam has kind of been standing out so far. Now, of course, we always have camp heroes and OTAs, so we never know. I only think with Kyer Elam, you can say, well, this guy was a starter. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like bringing a guy in from the practice squad and saying, he's going to be amazing. This guy is a serial practice squatter guy. Like Kyer Elam, y'all could say he sucks or he got picked on and he got some issues, but he was definitely starting. I feel the same way about Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray was a captain for Tennessee. So, you can say, maybe when he misses big and stuff like that. But it's like these guys are guys that have starting pedigree. I think in their former systems, they go back to your point, Chris, of like Eberflus. I think that's what the whole thinking is with the development of the coaching staff, is they're expecting these coaching staffs to be able to raise up the talent of these guys that especially that they're bringing in from other teams and they're rookies. They got these coaches to be the developers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's their whole thinking. Like, we want you to develop and to teach these guys because we feel like we got a lot of potential, but it's all about can these coaches do their job and bring it out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because before I hit you, B. Yeah, because here at Franklin Football, SGS, coaching matters. We think coaching is above all the number one thing that takes you to the next level. That's what helps you win tighter ball games, and that's always been important. So this regime, being the fact that Shotty's had the opportunity to bring in the guys he really wanted, and I think that's something that Jones has let you do initially. Hey, I'm gonna let you bring in some of your guys,
but if you mess up,
but if they mess up, if they give you some Mike Nolan, if they give you some of that stuff, hey, you gotta get up out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely can see that, and what you're saying definitely makes sense.
So I feel like the cornerback room is kind of the one with the highest hope. You got a veteran and then a highly touted rookie coming in. You have a former first round pick that you traded for. Mm-hmm. You have a DB that they're kind of playing YA and nickel sometimes. You got I guess a hometown hero that they have high hopes for. And then you got the Ryan Bland, your seasoned grizzled vet, So I feel like, yes, the floor of the cornerback room could be like a 5-alarm fire type thing where the guys are hurt, but also at the same time, it could go well because there's a lot of hope for that room, unlike other positions. Like what we compared the nose tackle position. They don't really have much established competition for Mozzie, right? It's draftees and guys who've just been around like Denzel Jackson, But for the cornerback room, we've seen Trevon Diggs play. We just got to see if he can come back. We saw Kyrie Elam at Florida, Miami. It was Florida. We seen Kyrie Elam at Florida where he can be a fringe first round talent.
No, he was a first round talent. He was a first
I had a second round grade. But cool. That's kind of splitting hairs though. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. If the cornerback room goes well, it has the potential to go very well.
That's true. Because we got Carson and also look Izzy, who we play at safety. We also play at cornerback.
Yep.
He actually got more snaps last year. As I was going back and looking at film, I'm like, dang, Izzy was on the field a lot this year. So they kind of, gave him some snaps. And so we'll see what, I don't know what Flus thinks of him. But Izzy is a guy that I feel like he's just been buried on the bench, but I feel like he has the potential to really be a dog in this league just because when, we go back to his rookie year, but, his rookie, or it might have been, was it his rookie year or his second year? No, I think it was his second year.
His second year. Yep.
When you hear the story of how he found out he was starting in the playoffs, he heard it from teammates like a couple days before the Tampa game. And then we see how he went out there and performed.
Absolutely.
The guy been buried on the bench because the coaching regime didn't like him. And then, I guess he had issues with Dan Quinn or who's his D coordinator over there now?
In Washington? Dang, what's buddy name?
You talking about Joe Witt. Joe Witt. Joe
Witt had an issue with him. When he left, then we see with Zimmer, Izzy start being on the field more. So you still have a thing in him. Then you're hoping Carson can get on board because it's like he started off pretty good and then it's like he missed the game because of injury, and then I feel like his confidence just started going down. And so I feel like you do. I agree with you, Brandon, that there is a lot of high hope for that room of these guys can actually get on and get the proper snaps and stuff like that and develop. That could be a room that's like loaded, it's loaded.
It's got a couple surprises and I think it really does gives you the opportunity to let your guys who are hurt knee guys, the Josh Butlers, the Trayvon Diggs, even Sharon Ravel, give them a little bit more time. I think this has always been my pedigree when it comes to injury, Star, is that when a person gets hurt, I give them 12 to 18 months to get back to being who they are. Can they play? Can they show up? Yes, but are they who they are? It's going to take about 12 months. Well, this got hurt, in December, so getting him back in November is kind of pushing it. Siobhan Ravel, because he got hurt in college in week 3, yeah, we're hoping that he's ready, but you're talking about being ready not at the college level, at the NFL level, and we just throwing him out there. So that's why I'm kind of pushing him for maybe week 7, week 8, get him back, get into that 3 days of 3 weeks of football, 3 games and 13 days time frame where I can kind of work them in. So you're right. It's probably some guys you're gonna turn around and say, oh, I didn't have him, or I didn't have him on my bingo card, and he turns around and ends up being a prominent starter for us into the season. A kind of oh man, the guy that we loved him in the slot, but when he went outside, we didn't like him, Brandon.
Anthony Brown.
Yeah, there you go. Boom.
Yeah, there we go.
See, all I gotta do is kind of describe him. Sorry, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I see that guy." So I think we have some guys like, "Oh, he's pleasantly surprised he can play," and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So next on hot seat, cold seat. This is a 2-parter, right? One thing that we didn't have on your bingo card, see, Chris, bringing that one back. We didn't really have the Cowboys bringing in a wide receiver in free agency with relatively high trade compensation. We got George Pickens from Pittsburgh for a third. So first, how do you feel about George Pickens' addition to the Cowboys? And B, for the next hot seat, cold seat, do you think that Jalen Tolbert's seat is hot or cold?
Yeah, so on the Pickens trade, it was all over Twitter. I was standing at the Pickens trade because, of course, in our little beef the whole offseason, team trade versus weapons, I was definitely team weapons.
Yeah,
because I'm like, we had to get somebody next to CD, and we had to because if you just saw the way the teams were playing us, they've been playing us the same way for 2 to 3 years, just because it's like, oh, you got a CD over there, so and y'all ain't got no running game, so it's just very easy for defenses to defend us. I feel like now you got George Pickens. Now you got George Pickens. That changes everything. It's like, yeah, you may can sit over there and roll coverage, but if you roll coverage, that means now you leaving Pickens consistently one-on-one. And when you look at George Pickens, who is a number one, was a number one for the Steelers, and you bring him over here, is like, Shotty said is a number one over there, is number one over here.
For sure.
So it's gonna make teams think now. Teams were playing press man against us a lot and things like that. And when you have George Pickens, a guy who eats press man for lunch, it's just like, would you ever press up? You can press up Des Bryant, but
pay for it.
That's gonna be a funeral. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and that's how highly you think of a guy like George Pickens. You know what I'm saying? He is one of the best XY receivers here in the National Football League. So that's a huge addition to your team. With Jalen Tolbert, yes, his seat is hot because this is just going to be, if we sign Pickens, which I believe that we will, because it's like, what would be the point of trading a whole 3rd round pick just for a 1-year investment? That don't really make sense. But the Joneses are crazy. They do stupid stuff all the time. But I will say, and I do think that if Pickens goes, we possibly could get a comp pick. I think we could get like a third back. So maybe it won't be a complete wash. But I feel like if he goes out here and balls out, you need to keep this guy on your team. At least for the duration of this Dak, the duration of this last Dak contract, you need to keep him on your team. So, Jalen Tolbert, this is your last year, buddy. So you're out. You know what I mean? I feel like them getting Pickens pretty much told Jalen Tolbert exactly what they think about him. They love him. They think he's a great guy, but they see him as a 3, and we don't pay wide receiver 3s over here. So unless you're Michael Gallup, and in that case, we paid him just because we was mad at Amari and we traded Amari, and we were like, we can't let Michael Gallup and Amari go. Then Dak will be left with literally nobody. So we had to pay him. But in other cases, we don't pay our wide receiver 3s. So Jalen Tolbert, this is his last. Jalen Tolbert probably going to ball out this year, but he's balling out so that he can go get him a contract
somewhere else
because he's not getting paid here.
He might end up in Jacksonville or something,
Yeah. Jacksonville, I could see the, Ravens or the Chargers. Somebody's gonna pick him up. He's gonna get a job. Somebody's gonna pick him up. The same. Somebody's gonna get. He's gonna have a job, but he just ain't gonna have a job here.
For sure.
Man, she killed it on that. She's absolutely right. Yeah, and we were going back and forth. The seat was me and Brandon were like, before the pick and trade, we were like, hey man, we already got a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 2, because I felt like if Mingo's going to be your third, Mingo's a bigger, better talent than Michael Gallup was as a 3. He's a bona fide X. But I think like you said, and I'm echoing everything you said about Pickens being a 1. He's a bona fide DB killer. He gets you to the point that you can move people around to certain things. And you're right. Jalen Tolbert is auditioning and playing his behind off to be able to say, hey, I can go get paid somewhere else. Because I'm definitely thinking it's going to be between Jalen Tolbert and the rest of the guys. I don't like to be disrespectful like Brandon, because Brandon always talking about the pips of guys who are going to be, just playing for backup spot. But most of these guys are trying to play for special team snaps, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for special team snaps because you're not going to have the ability to go get guys elsewhere.
And that's going to be the super important thing, Chris. These guys that are further down the roster, we got to figure out how they're going to be able to make their bread on special teams, because they can't just come on here and be down roster and then say, okay, if I'm not on the field, I'm warming the bench spot somewhere. That's not going to work with this room, because I do have some faith. How did I word this? The fight between Jalen Tolbert and Jonathan Mingo for wide receiver 3 makes me a lot more comfortable than the fight for Jalen Tolbert and Jonathan Mingo for wide receiver 2. I get nervous as all get out if they fighting for wide receiver 2. If they fighting for wide receiver 3, I'm like, hey, break that pool.
Tryouts. It's tryouts. Yeah, it's tryouts. But see, I think that because I think I like Mingo outside. I definitely like Mingo outside. I don't think he gives you a huge threat in the slot. And my thing is that you're going to want CD and George on the field all the time. So if you turn around and go 3 or go 3 wide, hey, who you gonna put on the outside? Who gonna go in the slot? Because you're gonna go try to find the scrub, or you're gonna find the mismatch where you all over the field. So I think Mingo fits better on that outside guy. So I like you said, I'm not worried about wide receiver. Really, I'm not worried about wide receiver 4 anymore. Even though there's tryouts for wide receiver 4.
I need my wide receiver 4 to be the new CJ Goodwin, a special teams ace. I need a special teams ace from any of these down roster guys. Because otherwise, what good are you?
Yeah, absolutely.
that is what those your down roster guys are there to help your special teams coach.
They got to be able to tackle.
If you remember Bones Fossil, we would give him probably 3, maybe 4 roster spots a year. You can say, I want that guy, and that guy. That is what all of those guys are going to be.
Yep.
So next, and this is one that a lot of people disagree with me on. One of our deepest rooms on this team is our edge rusher room. Micah Parsons is just a weapon, fantastic weapon, right? Dante Fowler went out to Washington, got his money, and also became a double-digit sack guy again. We drafted easy. Well, I call him easy. Donovan Ezaraku. We drafted him in the 2nd round. Marshawn Nealon is there also from the 2nd round. Star, is Sam Williams C hot or cold?
It's hot. It's hot. I would say it's hot because, we have now drafted 2 edge rushers in the 2nd round since you.
Yep.
And this injury, although it's not your fault, you still on the sidelines. And it's like the further this had, we drafted Donovan Ezaraku, which I believe, when you're talking about pure pass rush tools, he could have the best.
Hey, he got a deeper bag. He got a deeper bag than Sam.
He could have the best, like one of the best. Because when you look at, and I know Micah is so dominant, but it's not like Micah has like 1,000 pass rush moves. Like Micah is dominant because of his speed and his hezzy. It's like there's a lot of things that like Micah's perfected, but it's like who in the room. And I feel like Fowler is similar, but Fowler probably has to have he's not as fast as Micah, so he's got to have a little bit more of a pass rush tool.
He got a bag. He got an absolute bag.
He's got a bag. And then you ask somebody like Ezraku who has a bag. Now, when you look at Marshawn Nealon, he wasn't really brought here to pass rush. So him and Sam Williams could be on a kind of the same playing field. But you got to look at, you brought Marshawn Nealon here to help stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
And you will always need help stopping the run if you are part of the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Sure.
So I feel like then you add Sam Williams. It's like, well, how good is Sam Williams at stopping the run? I don't know, because he was under Dan Quinn. He was getting barely any snaps, which is so weird to me because I don't know why we were giving him limited snaps behind Dorrance Armstrong, but that's clearly Dan Quinn's guy because he followed Dan Quinn to Washington.
Took him to Washington and paid him. Took him to Washington and paid him.
Right. So that's Dan Quinn's guy. Even though he liked Sam Williams too, he clearly liked Armstrong over him. So Sam Williams is the guy who struggled just because he's been in deep rooms and the coaches preferred this player over him. And you guys think he doesn't have no more sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jerry and Steven, they're just listening to the coaches. So the coaches are like, we don't really need Sam to play that much or have him in the lineup. And this is his last year too, so the Joneses don't want to pay him either. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about that. They don't want to pay him. So I feel like he is on the hot seat. So I feel like he's got to come out and he's got to really ball out in order to. I still don't think we're gonna pay him, but for him to get real snaps, like he's gonna get the ball out.
I think Sam is a hot seat guy. I think, but the thing about it is that you got to find spots for him because when we go normal, we're gonna have Marshawn on one side, and then you're probably gonna want Sam. But when you go into that NASCAR type package, that when you want to put pass rushers on the field, you're probably gonna slide a guy down because you're gonna want Dante Fowler on one side. You're gonna want Micah on one side.
Also in the middle.
And that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying you're gonna have to slide a guy down. So if you're trying to go 4, you're trying to find that fourth guy. So if Sam can come in and play some of that, I don't know, because we really don't know him as being a bona fide tool bag. I know we're gonna go get you sack type guy, and they love this new toy they got in Eazy-E. And so I just think right now he's on the hot seat, but I think he does have certain things that he can do that's going to make it. He was having an okay year coming in last year before he got hurt. It's just the problem that it's the right type of, going back to the right type of guys mantra. You do too much stuff off the field for me to say, hey, I'm going to stand on the ball for you. And so because he doesn't do that, that's going to be his issue. So yeah, I think Sam's seat is definitely hot. It's warm. You got Peyton Turner, who's your rundown guy who can back up Marshawn Nealon. And then you got 4 guys who can go rush the passer. You definitely, and on pass rushing downs, man, nobody's trying to say, hey, Mike is on the sideline for Sam Williams. Man, get your whole entire ass out of here. Ain't nobody doing that. So that's the problem that he runs into.
Yeah.
It's a difficult situation, right? Even in the 2 years where he was healthy the entire year, Sam Williams never got more than 50% of the snaps. He at highest, and this was due to knee, he was like a 42% snap guy, right? Otherwise, he hovered around like that 25 to 30% range. In some games he was at single digits. So yes, that could have been like a Quinn issue. Maybe his previous coach didn't really vibe with him that well. Who knows? But the league, this is a fast league, and you can't let it pass you by. And Sam Williams getting injured in his 3rd year, which it was obviously more important than this year, was horrible timing.
Timing is terrible. Timing is god awful. Timing is god awful. Yeah, for him to do that.
So yeah, Sam Williams got to come in and impress. Otherwise, he might not make this team. Like not even
making the team. The making the team part. No,
Sam Williams might not make this team, Chris. They brought in Peyton Turner. Peyton Turner might get a green dot at some point. You never know. Because Micah never gonna get that dot. You just want Micah to run free.
No, it's only two guys. It's only two guys that's gonna get to me. I feel will end up getting the green dot. It'll be Louis Fowl and it'll be the linebacker we brought in from Chicago. Them two guys. Yeah, Sanborn will get the green dot. I'm never gonna see Michael with a green dot on nothing.
Exactly.
So I like
and
it.
Maybe a green dollar sign, but that's about it.
Oh, I need him to get paid now. Oh, I need him to get paid. They playing around with that. Yo, Ty Church said, as more and more we go into camp, he got us to comment. He said, the more and more we go into camp, Tyler Guyton is on the hot seat. How do you guys feel about this thing with Tyler?
I think Guyton is on the hot seat for fans. I don't think he's on the hot seat for the coaching staff. I don't think that the coaching staff or the front office is worried about Guyton. I just don't. I think that they think that he was just put in a real bad situation last year. I mean, you had a coaching staff that was all on 1-year deals. I don't think that Mike McCarthy wanted Tyler Guyton. I don't think Solari wanted Tyler Guyton because they knew that he was a developmental prospect with a high ceiling, but they knew he was not going to be ready for week 1 to go against those the gauntlet of pass rushers this guy had to go through. I mean, it was a disaster. Then he got hurt, and I've been watching his games and doing the breakdowns on him, and it's like this coaching staff really let him down because, for example, the Washington game, I'm looking at every snap. I'm like, oh, Tyler, he's playing pretty good. Like he may have lost a snap rep here and there, but he was playing pretty good. Not enough to where it's like you need to get benched. They started subbing him in. Subbing him out, putting Awesome Riches out there. So it's like, why are you doing that to your rookie prospect that needs all the snaps that he can get? But that's because Mike McCarthy and them did not care about development. And then when Chuma came back, like Tyler Guyton was missing whole games. He was healthy. He was just sitting on the sideline because we just paying Chuma. We just playing Chuma, which what the hell are we paying Chuma for when we knew Chuma was going to go in the free agency? He just got a bag in Jacksonville.
Talk about it.
But the coaching staff, I feel like Mike McCarthy's last year, he was on an effort tour where he was like, listen, I'm going to do what I want. This is my last year. You guys are likely going to fire me anyways. I don't trust Tyler Guyton. I don't think that he's ready, so I'm not putting him out there. But I think that the current coaching staff, as well as the front office, they're going to do all that they can to get Tyler Guyton to where he needs to perform. Now, I don't know who his trainer is because I done gone back and forth with Duke Manny with all this stuff, which Duke still hasn't confirmed that he's working with Tyler or not. He's just he did put out that they're allegedly on good terms, but he didn't say he was training them, and I ain't seen no videos of him training them. So I don't know who's training Tyler Guyton or not, but I do think that when you look at how much emphasis they put on the offensive line with bringing in Clayton Adams and what's his name, and Connor Riley. Yeah, from K-State. I feel like, and shout out Tyler Guyton's dad, who said that the whole entire offensive line room was unhappy with the last coaching staff. And I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. Now, he sends to leave the comment, but I already screenshot it. But he said that the whole entire O-line room was not happy with the last coaching staff. And I'm like, well, when you see how we were consistently underperforming, like, can you be mad at them for that? Because the whole offensive line under Solari regressed. And under Philbin, people say Philbin. I'm like, Philbin wasn't that good because we couldn't pass block for shit under Philbin. We could run block. But then with Solari in 2023, it was like we could pass block, but we couldn't run block. And then before, we couldn't run block or pass block. So I just feel like that coaching staff just wasn't really good for these young players' development. And it seemed like we do have some coaches in here that are known to develop offensive line. So
yeah, I think great point, and you're spot on where you talked about Philbin to Solari to what you expected from these guys, and you really did talk about it because under Philbin, that's when Brandon was ready to go ahead and put a black ski mask on and go whoop Terrence Steele's behind. So I understand that. So going by what you're saying, I always felt like, whenever you replace a legend or you replace a great player, it's tough being the guy to follow him, right? So, I'm gonna just use college football. Caleb DeBoer is a really good coach, but he followed Nick Saban. So no matter what he did, it was going to be a problem. Tyler Guyton had the pleasure of having to follow Tyler. Yeah. He ended up Tyron Smith, and even though Tyron was on the backside of his career, he was still, in our eyes, still great. Or he could turn around if you don't practice him all week. He still come out there and give you Pro Bowl level play. So there is that's what we're looking at for everything that we're looking at. So I'm looking at on the board where what they did with Guyton, they didn't do him a service last year. I think he does get the uptick of having Clayton Adams and Riley to coach him. And I just think year 2 and year 3, Tyler Guyton is going to be like, yo, we got a guy. And we can't keep thinking we're going to go from all pro to all pro every time, but you're going to get a really good serviceable guy in Tyler Guyton. But he's going to mask out that first round grade and you're going to be okay. Yeah. So I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. Chris, me and you have known each other for a few years, right?
We've known each other for a while, my friend.
Yeah. I think I've grown as an evaluator. Me 3 years ago, I'd be very hard on Tyler Guyton. Tyler Guyton would never see peace if I was in the building.
Man, you've been hard on Tyler Guyton since he got drafted. What you talking about?
Yeah. But wait. Like I said, I've grown, Chris. I've matured. I try to be less judgmental of rookies because they're rookies, right? Tyler Guyton was drafted as a prospect that would need some upbuilding, would need to develop a bit. And the coaching staff knew that. It just so happens that the coaching staff that drafted him, their leash was short. They were tying their own noose, right? I am not going to hold Tyler Guyton's rookie year against him because I think that now is the year where he's going to be able to truly develop as a left tackle.
Yep.
I mean, so wait a minute. So you're saying here that we got to record it, and because Star here, you giving him a pass?
I'm granting him some grace. I'm not giving nobody a pass. God. I'm granting him some grace.
You give him a little grace. Okay.
No, I don't even let people in the left lane pass me, Chris. Ain't no free passes.
Star, I'm about to say, boy, girl, you need to come back every day. You're going to give the man a whole pass for the year.
I'm going to grant him some grace, Chris.
Okay.
He had to get stronger, too.
That is the one thing that's the one thing about his game. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the one thing about his game. He is not a powerful guy. Whereas with Tyron was just a powerful guy and big and technical.
Like
yeah.
Everybody knew as soon as Tyron get his hands on you, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying?
Right, it was over.
Same thing with Tyler Smith. They had that strength, so it's like Tyler Smith. He didn't struggle as much as Guyton because he came in the league strong as hell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just Cod Diesel. You know what I'm saying? He just doing his thing.
He could just overpower guys just from day one. But when you had Tyler Guyton, he didn't have that strength. He didn't have that. I say he has elite feet, but he don't have the strength to really be able to like hold and because that's where he will struggle. Like staying in his blocks long enough and stuff like that. And if you're run blocking and we're pulling you, being tougher, or being more forceful at the point of attack, sometimes he's supposed to be lead blocking and then you get pushed back because you're just not strong enough. And you're supposed to be being the lead blocker means pushing guys off the ball,
Right.
So, but Scotty said nobody has been in the weight room more than Tyler Guyton this whole offseason. Right. We see the pictures. He does look like he's gotten bigger and he's got muscle. So we will see how it translates on the field, but I do think that this coaching staff, they know how pivotal it is for his success. So I feel like all this whole offseason, they've kind of put a lot of focus. He's one of the players, because Shotty said they have all these plans for specific players and all of this stuff. So I do feel like he's one of the players where they put a lot of focus into how can we get him performing better, because we know last year he wasn't done any favors by the McCarthy regime.
Absolutely.
Do y'all think that the McCarthy regime, because you mentioned strength and stuff like that, right? And one thing that I always say is certain players won the genetic lottery, right? Tyler Guyton won the genetic lottery. He has the highest ceiling for physical strength, just to pin somebody up against a locker, But we saw with Mozzie Smith how that coaching regime, the McCarthy regime, mismanaged his weight, and it didn't do him any favors. It did him an extreme disservice. Do you think that the same thing might have happened to Guyton?
That's gonna come out later down the road, honestly. What would happen with Guyton? But the thing, I think the thing with him was he was to the point where he was already a project. He got placed in a spot where it was a very pivotal. He's got to come in and be able to play at a very, very high level because he's a left tackle. And they just didn't. The pick was great if he kept him, and he was already a project. So you weren't going to be able to get him to go from right tackle, project, flip the left, and play at a high level. We just kept thinking what we turned with Tyler Smith is that, okay, Tyler Smith was a left guard. We just had to work on some hand placement. He was already cock strong, so he was going to be able to be fine. And we were able to put, and he was so good to the point you could push him out to left tackle, and he didn't die. He had some struggles. He had some issues. I just think it was just too big of a jump for Guyton on top of having guys worrying about getting that next paycheck. Because, see, the mortgage come due every month. You know what I'm saying? If you out here doing, like, what we like to say, this is a league of mortgages, taking care of mama and child support. When those things start coming up, folks start looking at everybody different about what they're trying to get ready to do. So I just think Tyler had a situation where he was just thrown in a bad spot. Now, a bad coaching staff on a 1-year deal. But I think with the staff he has now and having been around everybody and him knowing, because every time you hear him talk, he talks like he cares about football. That's the kind of guy you want. Right. He's one to understand, I want to work, I want to get better, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go do the work to do it. So I think Tyler's going to be fine. I don't think Tyler's going to have any you're going to see that bump. You're going to see that bump that we saw with Mozzie from year 1 to year 2, where you start saying, okay, he's playing better. You're going to see it more abruptly with Tyler because he plays left tackle. Whereas with Mozzie, you had to go back and look at the tape and you had to start seeing certain things. But you're going to see it. And like, and like somebody said in the chat, I didn't catch his name, but he's right. That joker turned around and got Myles Garrett and TJ Watt the first 2 weeks. Come on, man. That's an ass whooping waiting for you, And those guys are coming out early. So the schedule didn't do him any favors. The coaching staff didn't do any favors. And the beautiful thing that we have to say, he didn't go into a shell and kind of just lose everything. He understood he had to do the work. He's willing to do the work, and I think he's going to be fine.
Yep, I agree with that. I think with Guyton too, I do think that if Truman hadn't got hurt, I don't think this coaching staff would have played Tyler Guyton at all, to be honest. So Guyton could possibly
right. That would have been some mess.
It's kind of like Tyler Smith. Philbin didn't want to play him. Philbin did not want to play him.
So didn't. Right. All that mess.
Smith got hurt, and they were forced to play him because the whole training camp, the starting lineup was Tyron Smith, Connor McGovern, Biotish, Martin, and Steele.
Was that the year that Tyler Smith tore his arm up?
No, that's when Tyron Smith tore his whole hamstring off the bone.
Okay, that one.
With this terrible training staff, but
when they came back down, he tore his hamstring off.
Yeah, just off the bone. But that you're right, Star. You're right. They've always had these O-line guys doing these funny games, and the beautiful part that I love seeing, Tyler Booker, you going in the OTAs, you're going right with the starters. You're gonna be right next to BB. We're getting that law firm squared away and going from there. So I like that.
Yeah. Speaking of OTAs, Chris, you are just giving me the oops. You giving me the alley oops just as much as you need to. Speaking of OTAs and camp, Star, is there any particular players or position groups that you are the most excited to see when it comes to camp?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Pickens. Even though I already know who Pickens is, but I'm still excited to see Pickens on our team. I think the tight end group, I'm really interested in seeing because a lot of people have been talking about Ferg this and he gonna bounce back and stuff. And I'm like, listen, guys, I don't know. Like I saw something in Ferg last year that I'm like, I'm questioning who he is because to that 2023 year, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be one of our cornerstones. This is one of our firepower off. He's a dog. He brings that dog energy to our offense and all of this stuff. And then I saw him last year, and I don't know where the Ferg from 2023 was, but it wasn't here in 2024. And I can't really give him, well, he was hurt because I'm like, guys, when players play, we don't give them the benefit of the doubt to say he's hurt. We say that if he's out there playing, he's expected to perform.
Yep,
absolutely.
If you're hurt, Ferg, you got 0 touchdowns and 400 yards. So that is just awful. I don't care what anybody says. Like that is not good. And I feel like the young tight ends, they really started to build confidence last year. And you already see in the notes about Brevin Spanford looking unstoppable. So I feel like that tight end group is going to be real interesting to watch because I want to see, is Shotty really going to allow competition or is this just Ferg's job to lose? That's what I want to hear, because if you look at just how Ferg performed last year, I feel like there's no way you can just say, okay, Ferg's job is safe. So we'll see there, but I would say the tight end room, the safety room, in the cornerback room, really to see like how things shake out there. I think that would really be interesting. Those to watch those position groups because I feel like there's a lot of competition in those groups.
The tight end room for me is kind of it's an influx spot, and you're right. But I always feel like for the tight ends last year, you were playing, but you end up turning around and getting a really bad hand dealt to you dealing with Cooper Rush. So that's why I'm like Brandon. I'm handing out grace, but I do also understand that in his situation, going back to what you said too, which was so eloquently posted, we don't pay a lot of tight ends. Only tight end we end up paying and bringing his ass back when we shouldn't, was Jason Witten. So my whole point is, I think you keep bringing guys. You spent a second round grade on Schoonmaker. He's got to pop. Brevin Spanford, he's got the height, the size. We knew he could block. He had to upgrade his catching. So he's showing you that. The Faraday kid that we got out of Auburn is the undrafted free agent. Everybody, everybody loves him because of his catch radius, and he played at a school where they didn't have a really good college quarterback, and so he had a lot of impossible catches. And here's the X factor that we always we just take it for granted because he's here. Ford gets tight ends paid. Yep. That's what Ford does. If he don't do nothing else, he get tight ends paid. Dalton Schultz went and got some money that he shouldn't have turned around and got, but he went and did it. So you're going to turn around. You're just going to keep bringing in tight ends, find the guys to do what they can do, rotate them. I don't think you're going to end up – I know we're all hoping to get that elite level guy, a Dallas Goedert, Kelsey in his prime, Brock Bowers, but you got to go spend high quality money to get those kind of guys. But I think the guys that you do have right now are absolutely serviceable, and Ford makes them better. So I'm not so much worried about Ferg like going and blowing up. I just think Ferg gets back to his normal day level, and then he finds him a job somewhere else. And him and Jalen Tober are gonna definitely have different color jerseys on come next year.
Yeah, that's probably true.
We're not gonna pay Ferg. I agree with you. We only should pay special tight ends. If they're not,
absolutely,
just move on.
Right. Yeah, if they're not special, you can go find them. And like I said, as long as you got Ford, he's gonna make them look like, wow, whoa, look at that guy. And that's exactly what shoot. We were sitting up here jumping down when Peyton Hendershot got traded. We're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Because we thought, and he go to KC. We're like, man, well, maybe we don't see what KCC not Peyton don't play in the field. Peyton don't get no burn. Ford gets tight ends paid. He makes them look special, man.
Yeah.
Okay. This will probably be our last question for you, Star, because I know you got to jump off in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
One of the positions I am excited to see is this running back room because we don't really have a clear-cut guy yet. How do you feel about the running back room going into camp?
Yeah, the running back room is another room that I would really like to see how the competition shakes out. I'm also for if the Cowboys want to trade for a guy, ETN, or I know they've thrown his name out, or Bigsby.
I would love it. I would love it.
Another guy over there. He's more of a power back. ETN is not, but I don't.
Wait a minute, hold up. Who you say you love? Tank?
You know how big of a fan I was of Tank Bigsby. You know I love Tank Bigsby coming out. Love me some Tank.
What Tank Bigsby, I don't know, but it's like if the Cowboys want to trade for somebody right now, I'm with it. But if they also want to just see how that room shakes out, I'm also for it. Because when you look at somebody like Javonte Williams, I mean, he was special. He was special coming out of UNC.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he was. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes,
have
he was.
a very good rookie year. He got hurt, and unfortunately, that kind of derailed him. And then he got into a scheme when Sean Payton came. They started making him more of a zone runner. He's not a zone runner.
He's not a zone runner.
He's a gap, power. Like, I'm gonna get downhill on you.
One cut guy.
Run, cut, and break a lot of tackles. And so,
yep,
you got him in a scheme where he's got to, find the hole, supposed to cut back and all that stuff. So it's like he didn't look as good. Although last year he still did. He had a lot of catches and yards out of the backfield, so he does have that ability. So I really do think that the coaching staff feels like that's their low risk, high reward guy, where they feel like they're only paying him $3 million, but he has a chance to really pop, and he's really young as well. But so that's why I'm okay with it. Let's see how these rooms shake out. I'm a high Deuce guy. I know a lot of people are not high on him. They say he's little legs and all of this type of stuff. And I do want to see, and I'm looking at, we only have 2 change of pace backs in Blue and Deuce on the roster currently. So if we're going with a tandem, you got Blue, which I like Blue, but Blue is more of a receiving back. He's more of a, I got this one. This
kind of Tony Pollard type.
Right. I could take it to the house. Deuce is the one where I see actual running back moves and skills and twists and stop and go and all of this stuff. But, it's just a chance of, is the coaching staff going to give him a chance? The coaching staff think he's just too small and he's not an NFL running back. And if that's the case, I would say I love Deuce. I'm the president of the fan club, but I would say cut him. Like, if you don't think you have any use for him, you think he's not an NFL running back, he's too small, please cut him. Stop keeping him on here just because his daddy is the building. Please Deuce, allow him to go somewhere where he can actually compete and see if he can get on the field. Because I feel like here, the coaching staff don't want to use him, but they're just keeping him around because his dad is on staff.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
To him.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what you got? And then we're gonna go ahead and close out.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Star. Listen, thank you for everything. I'm gonna be real brief. Listen, the thing you're looking at is you've got one itty bitty. You got one small guy that you paid. You already paid Cavante, right? It's gonna be yeah. And you're gonna turn around and try to figure out a role for him. So it's gonna be he is gonna have to have an exceptional camp. I mean, absolutely. Now that's the guy who I think gets cut, and it is what it is because the numbers are gonna weigh out because of the money that they paid Cavante and the promise and hope that they have in Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. Now, the other 2 guys, if Javonte Williams can show you Javonte Williams from his rookie year coming out, then that's going to be the deal. And we absolutely do have no clue what Miles Sanders is going to bring to it. None whatsoever. So it definitely makes sense. Hey, listen, Star, thank you so much for coming, kicking it with us, man. We are honored, we are humbled, and we are thankful, man. And we definitely want to be able to kick it with you again. We're going to work on the audio type thing and everything that goes along with it. But we definitely appreciate your time today. Give it to me, B.
Star, before you do head out, take a second to plug yourself. Tell the people who you are, where they can find you.
Let go back and find you.
Okay. Yeah, StarGazerSports is my YouTube, just how it's displayed there on my Cash App. But it's a space between Stargazer and Sports. Y'all can find me on X, Twitter. I'm on there every day. I'm on there most of the time. So y'all can find me there on the StarGazer. But in Gazer, it's a 3 instead of an E, and it's 2 R's at the end. So y'all can find me there. You can find me on Facebook, although I don't be on there much, but you can still find me at StarGazer Sports Media on Facebook. And you can find me on Instagram at StarGazer_sports. And you can find me on TikTok at StarGazerSports. So those are all my social medias. I'm gonna hop off here, guys, but I really appreciate y'all inviting me to y'all show. I had a great time. I always have a great time talking Cowboys football, and hopefully we can do something again soon.
No doubt.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for kicking with us.
Guys, thank you to everybody in the chat as well.
No doubt.
So if y'all done stuck around with us for this hour and 15 minutes now, there we go. You got to do 4 things for me: like, comment, share, subscribe. And in that comment, I want you to tell me your favorite Cowboys linebacker of all time. Mine might be Sean Lee. Mine might be
yours is Sean Lee.
Might be, Chris. It might be.
I'm gonna age myself with my favorite linebacker, but it's all good. My guy was Hollywood Henderson.
See, I want to live then, Chris.
Man. You weren't alive. You weren't kicking it that time. I was running around here. I was scraping my knees on the bicycle during those days. But man,
no doubt.
Listen, man, great show, man, tonight, man. And bro, I just appreciate everybody rocking with us, man. Like Brandon said, like, share, subscribe. Definitely drop a comment, man. Let us know what we can do to get better and better and better, man. And we're gonna keep pushing the envelope. Got a little OTA stuff we're gonna talk about. We're probably gonna come back this week. We got some more people who's gonna come rock with us, man. But as always,
I think we got Landlord this weekend.
Oh, this weekend? What day? Please don't say.
We can figure it out. We can figure it out.
Yeah, we figure it out. Because you gotta catch me early on the weekend because that's cigar season. You know what I'm saying? I got a whole new batch. I just got in ready to burn out. But man, listen, I'm the dude in the back, man, making sure the Kool-Aid is mixed perfectly right, man, and the chicken is always hot so we can get it out to the streets, man. And I'm always going to kick it with my man, Brandon, man, and forever and ever, we will always be Frankly Football. And until next time.
Peace.